a whole world of obstacles, and I've left lots of obstacles out in that. James Mentioner. Character consists of what you do on the third and fourth tries. I like that one. You cannot dream yourself into a character. You must hammer and forge yourself one. Got to work at it. Number 4, loyalty. An ounce of loyalty is worth a pound of cleverness. I like that one too. Loyalty is the very fabric of community. Back to the word Dr. Schroeder. Devoid of basic trust and some kind of mutuality of commitment, relationships cannot prosper. When loyalty is lost, the very fabric of a relationship can unravel. Even the disloyal depend on someone else's loyalty. Think about it. It's really true. The philandering husband will bitterly resent his accountant's embezzlement. Just calling the kettle black there, huh? The bribed politician howls over his wife's adultery. Loyalty is the willingness, because of relational commitment, to deflect praise, admiration, and success onto others. Many of you are heads of teams. I hope you give your team more than their right share of credit. Without loyalty, marriage becomes a competitive minefield. Companies become dangerously paranoid, and ruthless power politics will turn bishops into Machiavellian princes. We had a test in our marriage not too long ago, and it was absence of loyalty. We had a come to Jesus meeting, the two of us. Our marriage has never been stronger because the word loyalty and commitment were elevated in our life and our commitment to one another. Loyalty can go too far. I probably had stages in my life where I was too loyal to my employer. Balanced loyalty is really important in developing character. Lord, teach me to know what the best things are, even if it means not being able to do some of the good things. Most of you would agree time is a precious and short supply resource. And we can fill our lives with really good things. But sometimes, I believe, Satan causes us to do good things so we don't do the best things. Self-examination. Sam Houston. Some of you know that character. He refused to take the oath of allegiance to the Confederacy. He loved his Texas, but he loved his America more. In the name of the Constitution, which has been trampled upon, he said, I refuse to take this oath. I love Texas too well to bring civil strife and bloodshed upon her. He saw the beginning of the bloodshed. He never survived to see its conclusion. He was a loyal Texan, but above all things, he was a loyal American. Loyalty can become confusing and divided, and therefore sorting out our loyalties absolutely key. Loyalty is an old-fashioned word these days, sadly. Yet it's so key. Many of these are old-fashioned words, aren't they? 5, humility. The greatness of the powerful is made manifest in restraint. That's humility. Humility is the virtue of the victor, not the vanquished. Humility is often thought of as a weak sister type, right? Nothing could be further from the truth. Humility is a supreme virtue of leadership, which without power becomes tyranny. Sometimes we use the phrase, he's a meek little fellow. You know, implying some sort of Casper milk toast kind of guy, right? No. Humility. What a powerful, strong person that is. It's willing to forgive when forgiveness will earn no reward. Boy, is that ever a biblical principle. Humility is love in the driver's seat. Found that one, wrote it down. When humility disappears, might makes right becomes the way of life. and the most defenseless elements of society become at risk. I took a job in Princeton after commuting for 7 years to New York City. I had two separate lives. I didn't realize at the time. I had my Monday to Friday, and I had my weekend life. I lived basically the same both, but they were different sets of people. It wasn't until I took a job in the community that it all came together. When the 2000 recession stock market crash came, I was forced to fire a bunch of people. So I had to fire neighbors. That wasn't very fun. I remember to this day, one guy had a fire, showed up that Saturday at a kids' softball game. And his son was on one team and my son was on the other team. He's sitting over in those bleachers, I'm sitting in these bleachers. And guess whose son was the pitcher? His. My son came to the plate, and you know what happened? He threw at him. Time for humility. Every ounce of my body wanted to get up and go over and, you know what I wanted to do. Humility. That's the test of who we are deep inside, and that is a huge part of our character. Again, I'm giving you examples that I mostly got right. My wife were here, she'd give you the other side. The best example of humility, the Lord Jesus Christ. Think about it. He spoke everything into existence. Nothing we see was made without him. Unto him all things will return. Having full authority in the Godhead, he laid all that aside. Talk about humility. Clothed himself in where's the old suit? Right? Became a man, likeness of a servant. He laid aside his rights as God to become not only a man, but a slave of men. And of course, the sacrifice that we're going to celebrate here in a few days on Good Friday and Easter. I think humility, as I think about it and watch people around me that I think have that character trait, it brings happiness to life, a joy, a serenity. It makes one fit to live with because that one is not easily threatened by the loss of their power. It's another true mark of humility, is it not? The humble will be happy in this life not only because they are fit to be with, but also because they are able to be alone. It's another mark of strength and humility. Don't always have to have constant approval. They have a centeredness. Jim Collins argues that the most successful leaders have the odd combination of extreme personal humility and intense professional will. Let me repeat that. A combination of extreme personal humility and intense professional will. If you're not careful, you can think they're at odds with one another, but they're not. In combination, like a rope, it's so strong. The CEO who wants to lead with humility never asks how his employees can further his career, but instead, how can he help his employees fulfill their potential as human beings and productive members of society and the particular company in question. In being CEO of this asset management firm from 2001 to 2006, I saw over and over this issue of humility in people that I dealt with. People above me, people beside me, people underneath me. There's a story of an ancient and barbaric city that needed a new king. They called 4 of their leading citizens and said to each, "We're offering the opportunity to be king of the city. If you want to be king badly enough, you'd be willing to lose one of your hands." And a man with an axe stood at the table. "You can only move one of your hands to grab the ring," which is the ring of leadership, "and the other one will be cut off." The first to come to the table was a warrior. He wanted to be king more than anything else. So he reasoned with himself, "My right hand is my sword hand. I dare not lose it. So he grabbed the key with his right hand, and immediately his left hand was cut off, and it was cast out of the city. The second was a philosopher. He wrote with his left hand. That's my strength, he said. So he grabbed the ring with his left hand, right hand cut off, thrown out. The third man was the rich man. He was the merchant. All he could see was that golden key, the key of power. He grabbed both of them, and both hands cut off, was thrown out of the city. The fourth, he was the farmer. With a key between his hands, the question was put to him. He quickly withdrew both hands. The farmer explained, "My hands are my only means of service in this harsh world. I will not sacrifice any of my ability to grow food for my fellow man merely for the sake of power." Instantly, every citizen of the kingdom fell at his feet and crowned him king. They said, "Only one who despises power is worthy to have it." This is humility.
Wow.
Abraham Lincoln. If you think about characters in history that exhibited humility, I hope that man comes to your mind. Many in power wanted this defeated South to be crushed and humbled and humiliated. Lincoln, as war-weary as anybody was, with a great reason for revenge and vengeance, would have none of it. His closest advisors, it says, even his own cabinet, urged him to step on the naked throat of the defeated Confederacy and press down. Only his humility enabled him to refuse that. Known for his honesty, he proved the depth of his great and noble character with humility. In his second inaugural address, you know the words, "With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God has given us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations." There's a great mark of humility. Number 6, reverence. Any man's true character or woman's character is known not so much by what he or she earns or owns, by what we reverence. There's something arrogant about a person who refuses to be impressed with anything. Have you met some people like that? They've seen it all. There's a story of the parents of a bored 11-year-old. They took him to see the Grand Canyon. He seemed unable to be impressed with anything. But standing at the crossroads, he looked down and said, "Is this really a half-mile straight down?" "Wow," the boy exclaimed. "Yes," the guide said. "You're sure?" "Yes, that's a half-mile straight drop." Wow, the boy just kept saying wow. That night, when their son was sound asleep, parents went in to read his diary. They were happy at last that the boy had impressed with something. The lad's diary entry read, "Wow, today I could spit a half mile." I don't know if that's funny or sad or some combination of the two. To reverence is to show respect, is it not? Boy, that's a word that just, in our society, depending on the culture, sometimes that deserves a bow, quiet, hand over the heart, hat off, lots of ways to express that. Reverencing things outside ourselves takes our eyes off our own importance or lack thereof. There's another little story. A woman in a state of depression went to a psychiatrist. At the end of 6 weeks, at $300 an hour, the doctor said, "I'm going to write a prescription now that will cure you." He wrote this on the prescription pad. "Go to Niagara Falls, check into a motel, leave your suitcase, go to the falls, stand on the bottom observation platform, stare up at the falls for 5 hours. Repeat this every day for a week and you will be cured." "You quack," she howled. "I pay you almost $1,000 for these sessions and you tell me to go stare at a waterfall? What were you thinking of?" "Lady," he explained, "I have met you for 6 weeks at $300 an hour. I told you to talk to me about anything you wanted. All you talk about is yourself, your dreams, your nightmares, your worries, your fears, your past. The only thing you need to see to get well is something bigger than you are.
Wow.
Is it not true that a contributing factor to the increasing madness of our culture is in fact the decline of reverence? The loss of character in the West, especially, particularly the loss of reverence, is a subtle madness. Man is the center of his own life. With all our neuroses, all our fears, unable to get our eyes off ourselves. Sometimes I talk about lessons that I've learned or that God is teaching me in my profession. And like this list, I talk about 7 things. And the one right in the middle is, it's not about you. You know, even those of us in this life who are viewed as selfless or generous in some way, down deep we have the Adamic nature that just won't quit. It's about me. I remember sitting in an airport watching a gal run down the aisle. Her t-shirt, it's all about me. My comment, at least she was honest. The question, of course, is, what do we reverence? Do we reverence life? Do we reverence relationships? Do we reverence God? Do we reverence age? Humility and gratitude are the enabling catalysts of a true spirit of reverence. Respect for high office, whether that's political or otherwise. Whether you agree or disagree with the policies of that person, we are to reverence people that are in elected and other high offices. Elders, presidents, police officers, mayors. Even if you disagree with the incumbent, we are to reverence those. My personal view is that if society reverences and ascribes ultimate worth to anything except God, reverence immediately turns to selfishness and madness. The Bible is perfectly clear about this one. This world and the heavens that we see will burn with fire. If I reverence what will disappear, I make myself very temporary. So my question when I look in the mirror, my question to you is, what do you reverence? I kind of say it this way, what do you worship? Billy Graham has said that you can tell a lot about a person if you can have an hour with their checkbook and an hour with their calendar. Think about it. What does your checkbook say about what you reverence, what's really important to you? What does your calendar say? Where we spend our time, where we spend our money, where we spend our incremental time and our incremental money is all testing our character. And not for show, but deep down inside us. Number 7, and finally, gratitude. Gratitude is one of the highest virtues. It includes humility, it includes contentment, it includes praise. Gratitude in some ways is diametrically opposed to pride. And we all know what trouble pride can get us into. The reason we resist the life of gratitude is fear that thank you implies responsibility. I have a lot of friends that way. If we do something for them, he immediately thinks he's got to do something for us. No. Don't fall into that trap. Whatever the relationship is. It's not part of a payback system. That's not what gratitude is. The affluent who think somehow they deserve it all. I see this especially on airplanes and at airports. I fly a lot and have enough miles, I often get upgraded to first class. And boy, do I see the absence of gratitude. The entitlement. Oh my goodness. Ingratitude, which is a curse to everyone it touches, is a corrupting habit that destroys character. We probably all know, and maybe we were in this position ourselves or our kids. The kids go to get ice cream and they complain that there's no chocolate to put on top of it. Or God gives us a bowl of ice cream and we complain there's no whipped cream on it. Character to live in celebrational gratitude is the key to happy significance. Lifestyle. You know, many successful business folk, and I know many of them, I look in the mirror myself, been treated to incomes and wealth way beyond what we ever imagined possible. What's our lifestyle look like? And I'm not condemning anybody that has a high lifestyle or, 6 homes or whatever. What are you doing with those properties? That's the key. But at least for us, having gratitude is in part checking ourselves every once in a while on those very issues. Gratitude and contentment are the answers of true character to the discontented and the unhappy spirit of this age from time to time. So let me go back to where I started as I begin to wrap up. And that slight disagreement for that one definition. John Wooden, the legendary basketball coach, believed that character is far more important than reputation. And the Webster's definition that I gave you kind of had the two one and the same. He said, your reputation is what you're perceived to be by others, but your character is what you really are. You're the only one who knows your character, well, you and the Lord. You can fool others, but you can't fool yourself. And yet a lot of people do go through life fooling themselves, in my opinion. When I was in elementary school, that was before, I think they had phones in those days. They certainly have cell phones. And the communication from one department of the school to the other was usually a written note. And I was assigned to the guidance counselor's office, Mrs. Layden. Mrs. Layden wrote a note to Miss Bradley, the president, folded the note over, handed it to me, and said, would you deliver this to Miss Bradley? Well, I went and delivered it to Miss Bradley and came back and she said, she asked me some question. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. She said, you didn't read the note?
No.
I said, no, I didn't read the note. A perfect example of
Wow.
what do we look like inside. It was not my responsibility. It was not my privilege even to respond to the note. It was my obligation to deliver that note. I think that got written up in my school, and I was had a little halo over me for a day or two. Little did they know. The true test of our character is what we do when no one is watching. Abraham Lincoln. Character is like a tree, and reputation like its shadow. The shadow is what we think of it. The tree is the real thing. Thank you, Abe. So how do I wrap this up? I want to say we are only as good as our character. While competence is absolutely essential, our character ultimately makes a greater impact on what we accomplish in our work and in our lives. Character is expressed in authenticity, wisdom, humility, and courage ultimately form the substance of who we are if we want to have great impact. Just as humility seems to be at the center of personal effectiveness, arrogance is commonly the root of someone's undoing. And I see that, and you probably do too, all over in your worlds. Self-awareness is also very key to character success. Do we choose substance over style, character over charisma, wisdom over want? If so, we begin to become transformed from the inside out, and that develops character. Openness to feedback. Huge part of developing character, especially in young people. I try to teach our kids. You may not agree with everything I say, but at least listen and process it. Accurate self-awareness requires that we become students of ourselves, and that's an essential part of developing character. Character, as I said, often is only built, or most quickly built, through adversity. But every one of you could come up here and agree with that in some way, shape, or form. I hinted a few minutes ago, I lost my job in 2012. That was a very difficult period for me. I didn't anticipate I was going to lose my job. And I wondered, X weeks down the line, why did this hit me so hard? One, identity. I had transferred some of my identity to my position. No wonder it hit so hard. All of a sudden, who am I? Control. My wife pointed this one out. Bob, you've been in control all your life. Now you're not. Who's in control of your life? Are you paying attention or not? Resilience is the ability not only to bounce back from adversity, but also to grow from it, and that sure develops character. Every society anchors its ideals in its virtues, and ultimately its character. When those virtues are absent or are perverted, there will be a downward spiral in the values, actions, and character of the people. The real danger is not the absence of virtue. There is no historical evidence of an utterly virtueless society. The great danger is not the lack of virtue, it's the wrong virtues. We all have virtues, individually and collectively. If we hope to elevate or ennoble our character, I'm talking collectively now, we must carefully define our virtues. The most basic values held by a society dictate the kind of leaders that it produces. If the premier values are hard work, perseverance, ingenuity, and discipline, we produce people like George Washington Carver. On the other hand, if the preeminent virtue is wealth, no matter how you get it, we have Enrons on our hands. Our ideal cannot be the quality of life. That puts comfort, ease, beauty, intelligence, wealth, power, and convenience ahead of decency, goodness, kindness, and the innate value of every life created by God. The quality of life cannot be more important than the value of life. Character is a word and these virtues inside it that has too quickly disappeared or become faint in our lives and our society. I believe we must purpose in our hearts to focus on, to learn true character, to teach it, to permeate in all that we interact with. It is time to demand of ourselves and of others, of our courts, of our government, of our society, these issues. With our character squandered, we become doomed to life on the jungle floor. We must struggle for character now before it's too late. Character can be taught, to repeat, you know that, and you're doing that at this school, and I thank you for it. It can be taught, it can be modeled, it can be cultivated. The threads of virtue can still be found and used to weave a tapestry of character. We all have probably lived with less wealth than we have today. Certainly our society has. We have survived stock market crashes, depressions, and world wars, but we can't long survive without character. Now's the time. Character matters. Make it our priority. Thanks for your time.
Character matter?
Yes.
That was terrible. Does character matter? Yes. You go in just a moment. In your package, you have a few things I want to call attention to. We'd like to see feedback. Yellow sheets. Please take a moment or two and complete those. Leave them on the table. We will collect them. Your feedback in the past has helped us to improve these receptions. There's a white sheet in your packet. And if you'd like some additional information, check off the boxes. If you would like a certificate for attending, check off the box, make sure we have your name, and we'll get you a certificate for attending. And then I just want to mention to you that we have the National Day of Prayer coming up. It's always the first Thursday in May. And we host at our North Campus a prayer time from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., followed by bagels and a little time of fellowship. If you can make it to the North Campus on May the 7th at 7 a.m. in the morning, come join us for a time of prayer. Our speaker will be Bill Page, and that information is in here. In the afternoon on the National Day of Prayer, if you listen to WMCA, I probably shouldn't say that in this building where we have WAWZ, but if you listen to WMCA, we are having a live broadcast from the college from 3 to 4 in our student lounge. We invite you to come and be part of that broadcast in the afternoon on the National Day of Prayer. We do thank you all for coming. There's food left out there. There's beverages out there. There's time still to network with each other, to meet other people. Trust that you found something that is valuable to you. something you can take home and you can apply to your life. Just going to ask our president to ask God's blessing on this as we go tonight.
Again, thank you for coming. Thank you, Bob, so much for those inspiring, informative words. So, benediction, that's like they do in churches, benedictions, It's not necessarily a prayer. It just means a good saying. So I want to bless you as you go from here with this good saying. I pray and trust that God Almighty Himself will enlighten your path and enlighten your mind so that you can be the light to other people. And you never, ever lose your own light by lighting somebody else's candle. So go out and serve God and bless humanity and apply what you've just learned. Amen? Amen.